Druid Karn with one change from my Modern Streamers League, and that is a sideboard slot. I tried metagaming the league a little bit with the 15th slot, and I ran Torpor Orb, fully expecting not one, but two human opponents in my bracket, and lucky me, there were zero. So I was stuck with the Torpor Orb, which only is useful against Jeskai Saheeli, which I'm playing tomorrow. But other than that, Torpor Orb's kind of a lame card. So the recommended list I'd run would be this. In that sideboard slot would have Tireless Tracker or another equally grindy card. I've been trying Ugin the Ineffable, which works pretty well if you can land him, letting you Lattice Lock a lot easier, effectively saving 4 mana, while also being a removal spell and a value engine unto himself. I do like how Tireless Tracker works well in conjunction with Teferi and Finale, so I can like flash in a Tireless Tracker at someone's end step and it just makes Finale better post board when I'm siding out combo pieces. Because I only have so many sideboard slots to side in generally, so even if I side out 3 Viziers, which is usually the most that I side out for removing combo, and let's say I want to side out some Finales too, I only have so much I can actually bring in a lot of those matchups. So Winds of Abandon, the theory on that is it's a path to exile, but it's also sometimes instant speed thanks to Teferi, but it's also I can get to 6 mana pretty quickly. This deck can actually get, I think, what, 6 mana turn 3? So it's pretty feasible that I can get that overload cost to get a free board wipe, which I'm pretty excited about just as an option. And Path to Exile is obviously a very good removal spell. All the removal spells in this list are able to deal with pretty much any creature. Hey, Dive Down. Hey, Shane, thank you very much for the follow. I greatly appreciate it. Welcome aboard the Doom Train. Glad to have you. Hey, how's it going? Just chatting about one of my favorite decks. Unfortunately, I couldn't find room for Collected Company in this deck. Otherwise, man, I was for a long time trying to make a modern deck with all my favorite cards put together, and it just wasn't happening. It just wasn't happening. Yeah, I like this deck a lot. I'm torn between a few different decks in Modern right now. I really like this deck. I just don't like its Phoenix matchup, where something like Amulet Titan is really, really strong against Phoenix decks. But I feel like it doesn't have as polarizing matchups against a lot of the field. Like this deck can just, the turn 3 win is way more consistent than the Amulet one. Yep, not that 75. All right, yeah, I think you were trying on Givers, right? Which I tried Givers. I wasn't as impressed with them as other people were. I also like having individually powerful cards. And if you look at this 60, other than the 4 Viziers, every single card here is individually powerful on its own. Right, so I have lands. Arbor Elf is a very powerful ramp spell. Oath of Nissa's Ponder. Utopia Sprawl is another very powerful ramp spell. Scavenging Ooze, obviously a strong card. Druid is, again, another powerful ramp spell. We have Eternal Witness, which is a value card. Teferi is obviously very strong. Karn, Shalai strong. Finale, and Ballista are all independently strong cards. Vizier is the only... I have 4 cards that need something else to be powerful. Need something else to be playable, even, I would argue, because I think Devoted Druid kind of does a Wall of Roots impression and just giving you double mana the following turn for Finale into something. I think that's valuable in and of itself, but Vizier doesn't even do that by itself. 5 removal spells side, yes. My game plan against mid-range decks is to have an answer for things like Dark Confidant, have an answer for Scavenging Ooze, and I also like having the ability to... I don't think the Humans matchup is great, especially when we're leaning on so many non-creature spells. Thalia actually can hit us pretty hard, and I want to have removal spells for those matchups. I don't really care for Eldamri's Call. I think it messes up with the mana quite a bit. So you need green-white, right? So let's say I have a turn 2 Druid, and then I'm going into Call. I need Eldamri's Call, it costs green-white, and then I need another white mana to cast Vizier. And since I'm already running Shalai main, I feel like there's confliction there. Like, well, how many white sources can I reasonably have available for that? And I don't like that answer. I'd rather just be running Finale, which is a very similar. It does a very similar job in this list to Call, except it also wins a game on its spot. This deck could get 12 mana fairly, like if you look at just Arbor Elf and Utopia Sprawl. So Finale doesn't even, you don't even need to vote a Druid to be able to sometimes just power out a giant Shalai with haste or a giant Eternal Witness with haste. I don't like needing the green. I like building decks from the mana. I like having a theory, and then I like saying how does the mana base work under that theory. And there's a big reason why I'm not running any blue spells in this entire list except for Teferi, which I can get a blue mana easily off of effectively Oath of Nissa or off of Utopia Sprawl. So this is really just a green-white list where occasionally I have to shock for a breeding pool or name basically a colorless source, which is blue off of Utopia Sprawl. So I don't like the green. I don't like Eldamri's Call. I wish I did, but this also isn't really a toolbox deck, in my opinion. If you're looking at it, it's not a toolbox deck in the sense that I'm not running like Gaddock Teague and there's no Eidolon in the side. I'm not running a lot of the silver bullets. There's no Kataki. There's no Collector Oof. I'm not running all of those cards that toolbox decks often want access to. So it's not like I'm going to go turn 1 Dork, turn 2 Eldamri's Call, turn 3 say, aha, I got you, I have my Collector Oof, your game is over, because I don't have those. I'm not running those cards because Karn is kind of that replacement effect. Sometimes you are in this deck just a combo deck. Sometimes you are a mid-range deck that has a game-winning combo. So you can just kind of I like the turning point in this deck where you're saying, okay, now I'm a turn 3 combo. My opponent has to deal with it. Oh, they dealt with it. Okay, recollect, interact a little bit. Bam, have Teferi, have instant speed Finale, Druid win the game, or have use the Hall of the Bandit Lord. Yeah, this is much less of a toolbox deck than something like this, right? Like this was an older iteration when I tried having a really clean mana base with a Druid deck, and this was just a grindy toolbox deck that between Militia Bugler, Chord of Calling, you really had in Duskwatcher created access to a lot of hate cards sideboard like Ataki, Eidolon, Skooz, and Knight of Autumn. Catching up on chat. Yep. I miss Chord. I miss the instant speed, but I think Teferi making up for that. And I think Finale being... I think one thing I really underestimated with Finale was it's a Chord that costs 1 less mana to get 2, right? And I know, like, so I don't have to run... I can actually run Utopia Sprawls because I don't have to worry about Convoke, right? So in order to get the turn 3 win with Chord in the old Druid lists like this, Abzan Company, I would need to go turn 1 Dork, turn 2 Druid, and then I can go turn 3 Chord because I have 1, 2, 3, right? 4, 5 mana. So I would need that Dork, but not needing that turn 1 Dork opens up much more explosive draws, allowing me to do the Utopia Sprawl land engine, which helps me get to Wormcoil mana. Yes, Druid Karn is not like I love this deck is near and dear to my heart. This Abzan Company Finks list. Obviously, I won a big tournament with it, but it's a very fun deck to play, and I loved piloting it post board when I could just become this ultimate mid-range deck that loops Eternal Witness and removal. I even looped Gideon. I emblemed Gideon, played an Eternal Witness, bought Gideon back, emblemed him again. And that was effectively, I made every single Birds of Paradise I cocoed into like 2 dorks, and it was like I have 2/3 flyers now. That's normally bad, but that's actually really good here. Last night didn't go well for Team Ice. Team Ice started off the night with a win, and then Team Fire rallied back and won 4 straight. It was a lot of fun. Wednesday, Team Ice will try to get revenge. The same thing happened week 1, so I'm not too worried about it. Week 1, Team Fire demolished on Monday, and then Team Ice rallied back on Wednesday and came back. So Wednesday's Ice Day. Anybody who is a subscriber to the Modern Streamers League, not only does that sub money goes to charity, but also you now get access to the Fire and Ice emotes. I did remove my emote because I'm here. I will be getting a new one hopefully in the next day or so. I'm getting some really cool Doom themed emotes. Those are being worked on right now. I wanted to clean up the channel a little bit to get those. So you'll be getting much better emotes, really beautiful art coming forward. So, Druid Karn. Let's run a league. Ooh, actually, I want to show you guys a spice deck real quick. Where is it? Where is it? Here it is. I want to add a few things to this deck list. It's not tuned yet. I want to add Oath of Nisses. All right, that's absolutely something I need to add to this deck. Right, for at least 2 of them. So what this deck is, for anyone, I could probably actually even drop the Archangel for Shalai, but I probably should drop Spike Feeder. It's kind of too cute. What this deck is, for anyone who's unaware, okay, is basically every janky land-based combo you can put into a deck. I want to keep tuning this. I want to, once I get access to running 6s, I want to stream this. I just haven't been willing to spend $300, $400 on 4 digital pieces of cardboard. So what the shell of this deck is actually a Knight of the Reliquary Retreat to Coral Helm combo. This deck can win turn 3 with that combo, which is really sweet. Pulled a foil running 6 the other day. Man, that's nice. So this deck has that Nightfall combo, right? It also has Secure Tribe Scout and Sky Shroud Ranger, which is commonly seen in Amulet Titan decks. And if you have Secure Tribe Scout, Retreat to Coral Helm, and either Oboro or a bounce land, right? You can flash in the Secure Tribe Scout or Sky Shroud Ranger, put in that land. If it's Oboro, you can pay 1 mana, tap it, pay 1 mana, bounce it back to your hand. If it's a bounce land, you just bounce itself back to your hand. Triggering Retreat to Coral Helm, which has got a landfall, and then lets you untap the creature and effectively lets you generate infinite landfall. Now, what can you do with infinite landfall? Well, with Lotus Cobra, you now have infinite mana. With Tireless Tracker, you have infinite clues. If you have both of those, you just get to draw your entire deck and have a very, very large tracker. With Courser of Crufix, you just gained infinite mana. So all of those things put together, and once you get a couple things going, and once you have infinite mana, if you have a Lotus Cobra and Tireless, you effectively just win the game. You draw your entire deck, have a ton of mana, you play all your retreats, right? Tap down all of your opponent's creatures, and then you get to finale for something. You can finale for a bajillion and win the game. You can just play put Archangel of Thune in play, gain infinite life, and have infinitely sized creatures, and then attack with the Scout that you've been playing after tapping down all your opponent's creatures. There's so many ways to win the game from that point. And it's just it's got so many different angles of attack, it's pretty neat. What Red and 6 adds to this deck is, since the deck was already running red anyway for Kessig Wolf Run, now I just get a little bit heavier into red, but what Wrenn and 6 adds is it keeps your hand full of lands, which makes the Scouts in Sky Shroud Ranger more powerful, because those cards are very bad when you have no lands in hand. Absolutely, no one knows what people are like. Oh, you're Nightfall, and then game 2, they prioritize removing Night, and then I'm like, okay, well, this is also a very good mid-range deck. So even if there isn't a combo, just this deck will outgrind pretty much anything. In post-board, we have access to cards, removal spells. We have access to Reflector Mage, which is pretty spicy, to Fairy, which is very good at protecting our combo and hosing certain decks. We have Knight of Autumn to gain life, Ghost Quarter to deal with land-based decks, and another Ghost Quarter, I should say, which helps us against things like Tron and Amulet. And then we have Knight of Autumn to gain some life and help deal with some pesky permanents. So that's this deck right here. Once I have access to Wrenn and 6, I will be playing tuning and playing this list. I'm still not sure if Archangel Bethune is better than Shalai in the main. I did originally have the Spike Feeder combo in there. I just think that might be a little too cute. So I think I'd rather have Shalai main, which frees up a whole slot. And Shalai also wins the game if you have the Lotus Cobra in play and infinite mana loop. Shalai is also just very good at protecting Wrenn and 6 and your other cards. Change decks. Yeah, I'm really, really excited about playing that deck. I almost was like, I'm just going to spend $300 today and have Wrenn and 6. But I feel like the card will go down and I'll regret it forever if I spend $300 on it and then I end up being like $90 later. Yeah, Wrenn and 6 is amazing in Legacy. Okay. Oh, sorry, I missed Deuce. Sorry, Deuce. Deuce 111. Thank you for the follow 20 minutes ago. I can't believe I missed that. Welcome aboard the Doom Train. Glad to have you. Sorry I missed your follow. And I also missed Ransom 60, but I wasn't streaming then. That was at midnight. Ransom 60 gave me a follow. Thank you very much. Up against Vroom with a easy mulligan hand. Another easy mulligan. We're going to multi-5, game 1. This is fine. I will keep this. And I will put, don't know what we're up against. I'll put a fetch land. And it's one other land is what I'm putting down here. I'm debating between the Temple Garden and the Canopy. I think I want to put the Temple Garden at the bottom, but I also want to be able to work with this Arbor Elf. So if I go turn 1 Temple Garden, Arbor Elf, then I can fetch a Breeding Pool, and I can go turn 2 to Fairy and kind of play out from there. So I think I might actually just put the Horizon Canopy at the bottom. I just hope I draw well. Okay. So if my opponent has a removal, one thing I really like about Arbor Elf is Arbor Elf forces opponents to, like, if I did turn 1 Noble Hierarch, opponents are way less likely to spend a Lightning Bolt killing it. But Arbor Elf is such a valuable threat on its own. Arbor Elf represents so many different things, and people have like PTSD, being like, I'm gonna get Blood Mooned, I'm gonna get destroyed. So we're up against Mill. Do I bounce the Hedron Crab? Or do I play the Devoted Druid? I'm going to play the Devoted Druid. I think that's the right line here. And I have to fetch at some point, right? So I might as well just do it now, I feel, when they have 1 less card in their hand. Yeah. So this way they have less of a chance of having Archive Trap. They can always, if I fetch for Teferi, they could have always Archive Trapped in response to Teferi being on the stack. So I lucked out, absolutely. I mean, sometimes their opponent doesn't have the best card in their deck. I mulled to 5 here. If I draw a Vizier, I might win the game. If I draw a Vizier, I get to draw an extra card off of Teferi. So they milled themselves. This is Dredge. This isn't mill. This is Dredge. Okay. So that is why we didn't see an Archive Trap. So one of my best possible draws would be Karn to grab Tormod's Crypt. It might be too late though. Yeah. All right. So they right now they're dropping a Hogaak. Okay. This is fair. The good news is I have Teferi to bounce the Hogaak. The bad news is they can just recast it. Okay. Green, blue, white, Teferi. Bounce this. Of course, I'm going to flood out a little bit here. So 1, 2, 3. I could cast another Teferi, right? Because I'll have green, blue, white. And then I could bounce the Vengevine. I could bounce a Vengevine and draw an extra card. So they have a Carrion Feeder in the graveyard, so they get to cast the Hogaak regardless. I mean, because of course you can cast Hogaak from your hand and your graveyard, and it's an 8/8 trample, you know, of course. So next turn, I think I might just want to bounce the Vengevine here. It's a threat. I will have to shock to do so, so we'll have to go to 14, and I'll be completely tapped out. But I will draw a card to be 1 card closer to comboing off, and I've already spent the mana to do so. So I like that line. I actually played against Mill the other day as Amulet Titan, and it's one of the most miserable matchups for Amulet Titan. Keep this bad boy and bounce that Vengevine. I also thought about bouncing the Stitcher's Supplier so they couldn't grab. Actually, it's Carrion Feeder. I was wrong. I thought it was a Gravecrawler. Either way, that's fine. Okay, so now I just need to. I have 1 combo piece. I just need to draw 1 more now. A Finale wins me the game. A Vizier wins me the game. I have 8 outs. A Oath of Nissa might get me there. So that would be 12 cards that I could draw, which put me in a very good spot to win the game. Scavenging Ooze would probably be too late here. Worst case scenario, I'm probably just going Karn, eating a graveyard, and then having to somehow deal with a 8/8. Actually, I don't know if that's a winning line, because if they just play Hogaak right now, I think I'm just in trouble. The good news, though, is our opponent's running Lightning Axe, and there's already 2 in the bin. I doubt that they're running too many more than that. Yep. Yeah, 2 seems like it's probably the most they're doing main board. Okay. So I said before I was mistaken. It's a carrion feeder in the graveyard, not there's a grave crawler. Now they have a grave crawler and a bloodghast. So now they can cast Hogaak again. This is definitely what Wizards wanted, right? When they printed a 7 mana 8/8 trample for a 0 mana 8/8 trample. This should be a good matchup, though. I mean, I should goldfish better than my opponent. I just need to. I just need to draw the correct card to do so. So if opponent has another, I'm pretty much dead if my opponent casts another creature spell this turn, because then they get those 3 Vengevines back. Yep, there we go. So I have 1 turn here. Oh yeah, do not skimp on Graveyard Hate. Dredge is very, very good, and this deck is also very, very good. So my opponent's going to attack right now for 12, which puts me down to 2. Thankfully, their other Vengevine is in their hand. They've had some pretty good draws this game, my opponent. Double Unsummon's the only thing that kept me in this game. I do need, like I said, I have 8 outs. Oath of Nissa might also draw me into a Vizier in of itself. So those are really the cards I need. Otherwise, I'm just dead. Otherwise, I am just dead. Opponent is milling me. Oh, that's true. They can just kill me with mill, right? Or they can try to mill out my combo pieces. What else do they have? Oh yeah, they can mill me pretty hard here. So they can. They've already played their land for turn. So there's no Hedron Crab is done for turn. They can either try to kill me. They can attack me with the Vengevines, but that means they're not going to be able to like recast a Hogaak as easily. I think they're choosing whether or not to try to mill me or kill me with damage. Luckily, our opponent just milled over cards that would not have been helpful. So thank you, opponent. Thank you very much. I would also like to point out that the Horizon Canopy that I chose to bottoming it was correct in the dark, because otherwise I would have taken 3 damage and I may have been just dead right here. So opponent doesn't seem to want to do the math. 1, 2, 10. All right, they're just milling us. So that's 8, 10, 12, 24, and then they can rebuy Hogaak. So 32. I'm counting 32 is what they can mill me at, but that means I will still have some cards left in my deck. All I need is a Vizier. As long as there's a single Vizier. All right, there's 1, 2. There's 2 in my graveyard. If I peel a Vizier off the top, I win this game. I have 27 cards. There's 2 Viziers, and a Finale will also work as long as there's still a Vizier in the deck. Did I miscount? I might have miscounted how many times I could cast Hogaak, but that is not what I needed. One, two, three, four, five, 6 available mana. Scavenging Ooze can do some work. The problem is that I don't think it does enough. I eat 1, 2. Hey, living Edgar, living dead girl 65. welcome aboard the Doom train. Glad to have you. Thank you very much for the follow. I think I'm just dead here, right? I didn't rip the card off the top that I needed to, so I can Karn and Tormod script right here. That doesn't do anything. I think Scavenging Ooze just does more. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm just dead to loops here, though. So I'll eat the Gravecrawler. And I don't care about the rest at the moment. I'd rather just hold up the mana, and I'll pass. I'm 99% sure I'm just dead here. Like, if they attack 8, 10, 12, and I can triple block, but then I lose the Druid, and if they attack with everything, I'm just dead. I also think they can just mill me out here. Okay, still one Vizier left, 2 Viziers left in my deck, so unfortunately I just cannot be lucky and peel one off the top. I'm down to 15, they have 8, yeah. Alright. Let's not mull to 5, and let's not draw a card we need to draw, right? How's that? So Winds of Abandon seems interesting here. Scavenging Ooze is pretty good. What do I want to cut? Winds might be too slow, but I can get 6 mana on turn 3. So if it's like in that game right there, if I had peeled the Winds off the top and they hadn't had Altar of Dementia, I feel like I could have done pretty well. I could always run Knight of Autumn to deal with Altar of Dementia too. Cards I'm less interested in would be like something like Shalai. I think I'd rather have Skooz than Shalai here. I know Shalai is a outlet to win the game. I just don't think her hexproof ability is incredibly valuable here. I can also cut an Eternal Witness and probably a Teferi here. Because I want all of my combo. Like, these are my combo cards. I want all of them. Okay, so we are going turn 1 Oath of Nissa. If we hit Devoted Druid, which I think we have like a 20% chance of doing, we can win the game turn 3. I just don't think this is good enough here. I don't like those odds. Yeah, I don't like the turn 1 Oath and Prey, so we'll mulligan here. We'll take advantage of this London mulligan. So this is a turn 1 Elf into a turn 3 Karn, probably too slow. We're bleeding pretty dry here. All right, we'll keep this hand because I'm mulling to 5 here. I don't think that Oath of Nissa hand was going to get us there. Like, it was a 20% chance of getting that Druid, I think. Someone had done the math for me previously, and I don't like those odds. It was 20%, so this hand is going to completely have to rely on Scavenging Ooze. So I'm going to bottom an Ewit and an Elf. Okay, so again, not drawing particularly well this match. I think this is a favorable matchup. I just maybe I should have kept that opener Because again, that opener was entirely reliant upon that. That opener did nothing but Druid, right? It didn't have any ramp besides Druid and needed Druid badly. Yeah, mulliganing is one of the hardest things to do in Magic, and I think in Modern it's even more important. Any Eternal format, I think it's even more important. So my plan here is to play Scavenging Ooze and hold up a green mana, which will let me potentially slow down my opponent's shenanigans. Luckily, I'm on the draw here, so I can be a little bit more effective. Ooh. Yeah, I'm gonna take that risk here and just drop the Druid. I still don't have white mana, but a Finale would win me the game. Sorry for the mismatched breeding pools. I think London Mulligan actually really helps a deck like Jund in post-board games. When you know, you're like, oh, I mulligan for a hand with Thoughtseize. Done. Mulligan for a hand with Fulminator Mage. Done. And I think Renin 6 makes the London Mulligan even better, because you can mulligan for a hand that you can... Okay, there's the Lightning Axe. That would hit Skoos instead, so that's fine. You can mulligan for a hand that has something like Renin 6, 2 lands, a Liliana, and a Thoughtseize. And normally, like, what's that, 5? 2 lands, Thoughtseize, Renin 6, Liliana. Normally that'd be a really terrible hand, but all of a sudden now you're going off, like, and you're guaranteed to hit your land drops on a mold of 5. Nature's Claim. Interesting. So they have Carrion Feeder and Hedron Crab. Because the removal is Lightning Axe, which deals 5, I don't see any need to... I see no need to eat something now. It's not like I'm playing around Lightning Bolt here. I'm playing around Lightning Axe. Yeah, that's a mold of 5, and that hand is very, very good. So I do have a white source here now with that Verdant Catacombs, which is very important. Unfortunately, I don't really... with the Druid dead, it doesn't really matter as much. My entire game plan here is reliant upon Scavenging Ooze winning me this game. The problem with that is I don't have access to as much mana as I would like, and they can still, like, if they just drop a Carrion Feeder here, they can still cast Hogaak. In fact, in response to them casting Carrion Feeder, I'd probably start eating the graveyard. But Hedron Crab is just a phenomenal engine. It's kind of like how Dredge runs the 1-mana artifact that lets them mill themselves, except this also has Convoke. Because Hogaak has Convoke, they also get to get even more mana out of it. Are you kidding me? I think this match might just be over here. Shriekhorn, yeah. So let's take the feeder. And the crab. The good news, though, is I am progressing my mana. So next turn I will have 6 mana, which is enough for a Finale into another Skoos. Or a Karn, and do something. Yep, that's fine. Let's see what we find. I much would have preferred having that Scavenging Ooze in play over that extra forest here. So I'm going to grab the Eternal Witness to rebuy that Skoos. I think Skoos is better than Druid right now because my hand is empty. Have I played Collector Oof? I have played Collector Oof a little bit, but I do like... so how many removal spells does our opponent probably have? They have 2 cards in hand. I feel like I just have to go for it here, to be honest. I feel like I just have to drop Skoos here, and then I get to untap with a bajillion mana. I'm in a bad spot, so I want to be as aggressive as possible here to get out of it. I think being conservative, I think my opponent's just going to pull ahead. I think I need to force my opponent to have extra removal spells. But about Collector Oof, Collector Oof, I'm not going to run them in this list because Karn is basically Collector Oof. Okay, let's pass here. But in a traditional list, I absolutely want to run Collector Oof. I think it's a upgrade to Stony Silence in a lot of matchups. Obviously, a downside in that it dies to removal, types of removal that Stony Silence doesn't die to. But opponents that are bringing in things like Nature's Claim that hit Stony Silence completely whiff on hitting Collector Oof. So now opponents have to go, oh, you're a green-white deck. Are you bringing in Collector Oof or Stony Silence? And what if I'm bringing in a mixture of both? It's really going to weaken my opponent's post-board play because now they have to bring potentially dead cards in the sideboard to deal with my hosers. I agree. Plague Engineer, watching Plague Engineer on the Modern Streamers League last night in both the Abzan's list, that was a phenomenal card. Okay, so opponent is going to cast Gravecrawler, yep, and then cast Hogaak and get Vengevine, and their engine is started. So I am a bit late to this party, unfortunately, with my Molt of 5 both games. Like, this is turn 4. And sometimes you just don't draw what you would like to draw. Yep. So Skoos is a bit slow here. I think I just take 4. Let's think. I'm going to be taking 8 from Hogaak. So coming down to 7. So I think I actually might need to block here. No, I'm just going to take it and hopefully draw well. That's my plan. Draw well. Hasn't worked out this whole time. I will say, without a card like Collected Company, there's less potential cards I can just draw, which just like win me the game. Yep. Cards that would be great in this spot right now would be like Winds of Abandon. Okay. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mana. I can Finale for a 4-drop. I think first things first, I'm going to eat this Gravecrawler. And my opponent's only got 1 card in hand, so I think I just have to deal with their board and try to maneuver myself into a spot where I can win in a turn or two. Or 2. I think I can tank 1 attack here and then go from there. Because the fact that Hogaak has Trample is very relevant. So what I can do with this Finale, how can I try to pivot to win here? Winds of Abandon is a card I'm really interested in. I can grab a Druid, right? If I get a Druid and then I top deck a Vizier, it still doesn't win me the game. Because then I'll have infinite mana, I'll wipe everything clear with Scavenging Ooze. But Scavenging Ooze already basically is going to completely wipe the graveyards anyway, so that doesn't do anything. So let's take a peek at my list and see what Finale can grab me. Finale can grab me Druid. We already established that's not very great. Vizier does absolutely worse, nothing. Another Skoos, which doesn't do much. An Eternal Witness just puts a 2/1 body in play, which isn't putting us ahead. I sided out Shalai, so she's not doing anything here. And then I sided in a Night of Autumn, which isn't particularly helpful at this moment. So I guess that what I'm trying to point out is that I'm trying to think of a way where I don't just lose to this Hogaak, and I think the way I don't lose to this Hogaak is I draw that one Winds of Abandoned, and I make sure that Arbor Elf lives so I can get that double white off of the Temple Garden. So this Finale of Devastation is all it's going to really do is thin my deck a little bit. I don't think it's worth it. I think I'm better off just passing here. Let me know in the chat if you guys think I am wrong. Always let me know if I'm wrong. I do think if we play this matchup 10 times, I think the Druid Karn list will win at least 6 of them. I do think it's favored here. I just think 2 moles to 5. And I had my chances game 1. I just couldn't. It was 8 to 12 draws I had, which would just win me the game on the spot, and I just couldn't get them. There was a little while when I was running Rest in Peace in the sideboard in this list. I ended up cutting it, mostly because a big factor for running that was the Bridgevine list. When Bridge got banned, I felt that I could race this version of the deck better. And as you can see, like I've had plenty of time. Like if I had game 1, if I drew Vizier, that game was over. And this game here, if the game had been positioned a little bit differently, I think at this game would also be over. Hard cast Bloodghast. I don't really like that. Okay. I'm going to eat my own Druid. So I can block this Vengevine. This Carrion Feeder can become a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5. So I think I might have to block there. Like, opponent should not have played that land. I don't know, they hard cast the Bloodghast. They have no cards in hand. So I'm blocking here. I'm going to kill Vengevine. Right, I'll have 3 mana, so I can also eat this Ewit. The Carrion Feeder plus the Hogaak, this would be 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, which is exactly lethal. So I have to block here. Again, I'm not blocking with this Arbor Elf because I think it's important to get that. I think if I can overload a Winds of Abandon, this game is over. I know that if I can overload a Winds of Abandon, this game is over. So I want to keep that access to that extra white mana there. So I'm glad I blocked correctly, because otherwise I was dead to Carrion Feeder and Hogaak. And this will put me down a lower point than I would like to be. Well, I guess in response I would just gained life there. So now my opponent is at 15, and I have a little bit of power in play. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mana. Yeah. Like anybody who's not running Scavenging Ooze main should just watch this video. There are times when Devoted Druid just doesn't get you there. If your opponent just has a Lightning Axe, you need a fallback plan. And Karn is not great if they're cutting off your mana resources or if you're just not able to cast it. Like Karn is a little slow right now. Like I can Karn, get a Pithing Needle, named Carrion Feeder, and make my math a little bit easier. The good news is that this Scavenging Ooze is bigger than Hogaak now, so I can kind of play around that a little bit. I would like to put some extra bodies in play so I can, again, keep protecting this Arbor Elf. So I have 6 mana. I can Finale for something. I can like Finale for an Ewit. I can Karn. I think Karn, Pithing Needle, and Carrion Feeder, just to keep this Carrion Feeder from getting a little out of control, might be an okay line. And then I can, the following turn, drop a Worm Coil. 2, 3, 4. This has been a long match. And I could EE doesn't do anything because it kills my Skoos. I can also Finale for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can like Finale for an Ewit, buy back a land, and just put an extra body in play that way. I hate that line. I think I want to Karn, grab a Ballista and pass, maybe, right? And then I can have 2 available mana to eat stuff with Skoos, including 1 right here. And then next turn I can play Ballista and kind of go off. That means I will have to block with the Arbor Elf, though. Although I don't think they're going to attack Karn, so I could just choose to grab like Ballista next turn. I can just grab Tormod's Crypt now to make it so no matter what they can't just go off. I like that line. Okay. All right. So I could swing for 9 now, but then I'm just dead, so I don't do that. A weird spot my opponent's in is that the only creature they have that can block is Hogaak. I do not like that. Does that mean I'm just dead? That might have been the top deck to kill me here. I'll do the math in a second. I'm going to go up to 8. Unfortunately, there's nothing else in the graveyard for me to eat. I have to block the Carrion Feeder. So yeah, so I'm going to block this. I'll block this, and then I'll go down. I'm actually going to go down to 2 life. So I'm not dead. I'm not dead at all, but I'm not in a good spot. And I'm going to have to grab Walking Ballista with the Karn. So, oh, they're actually going after Karn. Me, Karn. Well, that makes my life a little bit easier. Let's eat the Ewit. Block here, which will be 0 damage. I'm not sure like Karn is a threat here, but I think I just like what do I need to do next turn? I think I can Finale for Night of Autumn to gain some life. Block here, and then I'll go down to, if I don't block here, right? My opponent can go 3, 4, 5, 6, put me at 2. That might be all right. So I think it's actually just better off doing this and then tap here, float a green to eat that Bloodghast. This means my overload is not, I'm no longer playing around that double white, but I am now playing into the walking ballista, destroy my opponent's little dudes and try to win the game there, or an engineered explosive to kill this carrion feeder if my opponent goes all in on it. Oh, did I just miscount? No, I didn't. I didn't miscount. No. Okay. Yikes! This has been a crazy match. Opponent choosing not to kill my Arbor Elf is kind of nice here. But they had the lethal anyway, so I miscounted. That was my mistake. I miscounted that. Chat, you're supposed to help me out there. So I should have blocked the carrion feeder. I should have trusted my gut. So I should have, and then I should have been able to, I should have just let Karn die. Actually, they're probably going to, yeah, they would have made Karn hurt, and then I would have been able to have one more top deck to try to win. Still just in a really bad place thanks to some really awkward draws here. But I'm going to grab more coffee because I clearly need it after that missed count. And it happened as soon as I walk away? Alright. Rejoin queue. So that should have been, that match should not have been nearly as close as it was. Mulling to 5, game 1, game 2. If I had won that game, I think I just was going to win that match because my opponent was down to like 5 minutes of clock. Let alone the fact that I do feel slightly favored in that matchup anyway, if I don't mull to 5 every game. Yeah, keepable hand. This is a turn 3 win. This is the type of hand that would absolutely crush our opponent last game. Okay, looks like we're up against Shadow. Yep, Grixis Death Shadow. Okay, opponent stuck on 1 land and chose not to use Mishra's Bauble. That's interesting to me. Again, choosing not to use Mishra's Bauble. Sure. So opponent's just dead. I don't know. Alright, well that was, sometimes I guess you just get free wins when your opponent doesn't cast any spells. So I need 36 mana to deal 18, so... Hey, Grandma. Yeah, we lost the match. Mull to 5. I almost had it there. Opponent top-decked Bloodghast, which rushed in. And then I should have been able to win from there. Or I should have given myself one more turn to try to win. And really, at that point, Winds of Abandon was really like my only hope. Even though I had a 9/9 Scoos in play. I was going to, the following turn, try and get a Ballista off of Karn and either gun down my opponent or just gun down their board and eat it with Scoos. But I was just in an awkward spot without a ton of mana, and my opponent putting a lot of pressure on my life total. Okay, so don't know, I assume this is Grixis Death Shadow, which is not a good matchup, but opponent was stuck on one land without a Fatal Push, or a Dismember, or a Thoughtseize, or a Stubborn Denial. So I don't really know, I have to assume that that was like a Death Shadow deck. So just to, it's either that or Grixis Control, but I don't think Grixis Control runs Mishra's Bauble, right? So, assuming they're a very interactive deck, I'm going to be cutting 3 Viziers. I want to keep in the combo just because Teferi can protect it, but I also want to bring in a Grindier package. I will trim like an Arbor Elf and maybe a Finale. And I'll trim a fetch land here. Yeah, I'm assuming, and they didn't even crack the Mishra's Bauble to try to like draw a second land, so I don't really know what my opponent's game plan was there. But I also don't know what I'm playing against here. I'm assuming it's Grixis Death Shadow. They shocked and didn't do anything else, so I don't know. Oh, let me check the, my tags are too long. Still too long? There we go. So anybody looking, you can be one of the first to watch it. It's finishing processing right now, the video from last night. Okay, so don't know what I'm up against, but I like this hand as a non-combo grindier hand. Sure. Cool, 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 cool. Yeah, last match was long. Taking Oath of Nissa, that's interesting. Didn't take the path, which means they either have not worried about it or they have more answers. I have no combo pieces in my hand, so I don't know how helpful Hall is, so I think I'll just take the Forest here. Mm-hmm. We're up against Urza. Grixis Urza. So I don't know what he kept, or she kept last hand. Well, it looks like their name might be Lucas. Yeah, we just need to try to combo through Thopter here. So they let me keep the Scavenging Ooze, which makes me feel like they have an answer for it. So I think what I want to do is play another Oath of Nissa and then path this Goblin Engineer. And then drop Scoos next turn. So next turn, I will eat that Thopter Foundry with my Scoos when I have available mana to do it. Okay. I do think having Karn in my deck makes a Prison style much, much better. Oh, they're going to Pithing Needle Scoos here, so I can't eat that Thopter. Okay. Oh. Okay. Doesn't really do much at the moment. Sure, and that kills Druid. That's fine. Or Scoos, I guess. Next turn I want to drop Karn, so I'm okay if they spend their entire turn killing Scoos here. Interesting. Opponent has one card in hand. I think they have to Spellbomb the Scoos, right? Yep. I can eat the Spellbomb, or I can drop Karn. I think just dropping Karn is just a much better play. And I will actually plus Karn just to help keep him alive and try to do something next turn with him. This is an extra angle that the Karn deck gets to attack from that a traditional list wouldn't. So normally that would be a Duskwatch Recruiter, and Duskwatch Recruiter wouldn't be great in this spot. But instead, Karn is shutting off all of their artifacts. So Thopter Foundry can't even work. They still get to get the triggered abilities, but not the activated. So Mishra's Bauble right there is effectively a dead card. I can't Lattice my opponent, but I can play Druid. And try to Lattice them next turn. Grab. He's gonna grab the Lattice now. It was either that or plus to kill that Mishra's Bauble. Yeah, Karn does stop artifact lands, which makes it really, really good. Opponent is cycling through, but I think they're just Lattice. They have two cards in their hand. They need an answer for Karn right there, and they didn't have it. So that's an easy win, showcasing why I like the Karn version so much is because Karn, their artifacts are always relevant, and Karn being a Duskwatch Recruiter that also hoses certain decks entirely is really a reason that I like running. So there's Hogaak, Dredge, O2, and Urza, Grixis, 2-0. Okay. Up against Solidin with... So a general rule of thumb I have with traditional Abzan Company Finks, which I'm going to keep comparing this deck to, would be I would mulligan a hand that doesn't do something powerful. So something powerful would be like have a Devoted Druid in it, or something like maybe a turn 2 Finks with a turn 3 Coco, like a turn 1 Dork, turn 2 Finks, turn 3 Coco, I think is powerful enough to keep. What this hand does, though, is turn 1 Arbor Elf, and then turn 2 I have 3 mana, so I can go to Ferry. And that might be powerful enough. And if I draw a land, I feel like I'm going to be pretty far ahead here. And I can always grab another land off of the Ewit, so I'm going to keep this hand. This is not a combo-centric hand, but this is a very powerful... This hand is full of individually powerful cards. I am forced to shock here, though. Because I'm going to want... If I do want to go turn 2 to Fairy, I'm going to need to have 2 colors of mana, so this will have to be like a Temple Garden, and then this will have to be named on blue. I have been impressed with the amount of... It hasn't been shown in this league, but the amount of keepable hands that this deck has, as opposed to traditional Devoted Druid decks, which I feel like traditional Devoted Druid decks are like, oh, mull for Devoted Druid. So we're up against Tron. So I get to bounce the Expedition map. That's kind of cool. Oh, no I don't. I only have two mana this turn. Right? Yeah, I miscounted. So I have 2 mana this turn. I need to draw a land to have 3. Okay. So next turn I get to Karn. And Karn shuts down Tron pretty hard. What I'm hoping is my opponent doesn't crack the map for some silly reason. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 available mana. So I guess I can go get a Pithing Needle. Ooh! Opponent did not crack that map. So if they have natural Tron, right, I'm going to be afraid of Karn Liberated. And if that's the case, I want to go Pithing Needle. Okay. We win. Sometimes it's better to have opponents that make mistakes. What do I change here? Scavenging Ooze is actively bad in this matchup. I also don't particularly love Shalai. Cards I'm more interested in is maybe this Knight of Autumn. Damping Sphere is a hit off of Karn. And Tracker might just be an additional threat. So my strategy in normal Devoted Druids is just to Druid as fast as possible, and my Karn's opponent strategy is to bring in things like Dismember. So now having this extra ability to be able to Karn win, I think is really, really useful in this type of matchup. So I think I definitely want this Knight of Autumn. It's better on the... you're good at hitting O-Stones and things like that. It's much better on the play than on the draw. But I think I'd rather have a Tracker than a Shalai. This hand is wonderful. So this hand has got a pretty good turn 3 win situation going on here. We get to turn 1 Oath. Oh, okay. So it just got the turn 3 win. Let me think about this. So next turn I play Hall of the Bandit Lord, right? And don't do anything. Hall of the Bandit Lord, pass. And then turn 3 I get to play Hall of the Bandit Lord, my Temple Garden, play Devoted Druid, get a Temple Garden off that Windswept Heath, play a Vizier, and then just win on the spot. I kind of like that. It just protects my Druid for a turn. If they have the Karn, they're going to Karn the land anyway, or they Karn the Druid. So at that point, it doesn't really change the math. Yeah, I don't. It doesn't really. All it does is it makes it so I'm a little bit stronger against. I force my opponent to spend mana on my turn instead of. I force them to hold up mana, and be a little bit less mana efficient. Like they don't know I have a Druid. If I just played a Druid on turn 2 instead of play Hall. Now they're turn 3, they have to have a couple more questions. And if they have something like a Thought-Knot Seer, they're in a little bit of a tricky spot because what do you take? You have to take the Vizier or the Finale. Personally, I think I take the... actually, it doesn't matter which one you take, so... Chalice on 1, sure. So this could be Eldrazi Tron. You can't flip it by on Moto. Yeah, this is Eldrazi Tron. So it's Dismember or they're dead. Okay, opponent's dead. I'll just grab the finale. Maybe they'll concede to that. Okay. Tron. 2-0. My watch is going off. Yeah, it's noon. So yeah, I think that every match has been pretty close, even when we mulled to 5. So I think that this is showcasing the power of the deck a little bit. So Ian, I forgot to ask, how's your grandma doing? She stopped by the shop. I think I'm gonna keep this hand. It's got ramp, dig, an alternative threat, and a useful card, along with plenty of mana. So I think I'm gonna keep this hand here. She's doing good. Good. Sheevan Reef. Anyone know what Sheevan Reef means? Does that mean storm? What does Sheevan Reef mean? Yeah, it means storm. All right, so this is a little rough. I think the best thing for me to do here so I tap this for Utopia Sprawl, tap Utopia Sprawl, play Scavenging Ooze, and then I'll have double green on Skoos. Yeah. On this one, and I want it to be green, just to have extra mana for Skoos. Green. Skoos. And I'm just going to untap this now, so there's no weird triggers or anything like that they can respond to. So I have a little bit of protection here with the Scavenging Ooze. This is not a good matchup for the deck. Okay. Okay. Manamorphose was the pickup. Question is, are they going to try to combo off right now? Or are they going to wait a turn? I mean, they have plenty of time. They're just going to Grape Shot my Skoos. Interesting. So I guess I'll eat this. And that. Oh. Yikes, 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 yikes. Kill my board. Killing my board. Yeah, anytime Storm gets a chance to wipe a company's players, effectively this is a company deck's players board, they're probably going to win. Yeah, I'm not in a good spot here. Like, the best I can do next turn is Ewit, Skoos. And the good news is they only have one card left in their hand, so they kind of just spent everything they had right there. I don't think I'm dead yet. I'm pretty close, though. And the fact they only have one card left in their hand makes me a little bit more comfortable here. So I'll go Ewit, rebuy Skoos, and play a land and pass. So my plan here is to block an Electromancer, go to 5, replay Skoos, and gain some life and have a threat. Opponents only got one card left in their hand, but they do have that Pass the Flames in the yard, which I need the Skoos to handle. Okay, so let's go Skoos. Eat that Electromancer. Eat the Arbor Elf. And I think I just want to hold that up to eat that Pass in Flames. Yeah. I don't care about that. All right. So play Oath. Grab a body. Play the body. I think I'm gonna pull this off. Hey Nidian, how's it going? Okay. So I now have infinite mana, right? But I wonder if just grabbing Shalai is better. So I can get infinite mana and then crack a Canopy. Or I can just get a Shalai, which I think Shalai might just spell the end of my opponent here. So I have one shot after, if I grab Vizier, I crack the Canopy, and I have one shot to win. Or I can just tap 2 more mana and grab a Shalai. I think I'm just in such a good spot. I think I just want to grab that Shalai. I don't think I need to take that risk. I could, yeah, I could do that too. But I think I was just in. I honestly I wanted to hold up as much Skoos mana as possible, just in case I somehow drew like a gifts and tried to go off. I think just kind of slow playing that was the route to victory there. So what I'm interested in here is maybe Knight of Autumn. Another Scoos, absolutely, and some, maybe I want some paths to deal with their creatures. I think Karn grabbing Tormod's Crypt or Damping Sphere is very valuable. I think having access to 4 Karn plus 4 Oath of Nissa is more valuable than siding out Karn and siding in Damping Sphere and Crypt. I think it's just a better plan there. Well, Karn, this deck is unique in that, like, if this was Amulet Titan, I'd be siding Karn out, absolutely, and siding in the Tormod Crypt. But Karn isn't just Karn here. Karn is also my Duskwatch Recruiter. Karn is an integral part of my combo. I can maybe side out 1 or 2, but I still need some number of Karns to often win the game. Knight. So these are my maybes. Sorry, this is definitely in. These 6 are maybes. Knight would be there to hit maybe like an Aria of Flame or a Pyromancer Ascension. I don't think my opponent's running Blood Moon. Blood Moon doesn't do much. Let's see here. So what do I want to side out? I think I'm going to side out a land, right? I do run 22 lands. I'm not planning on dropping. I like the 22 lands because I oftentimes plan on dropping things like Wormcoil. I'm not planning on dropping Wormcoil against Storm. Like, that's just something that's not going to happen. I just don't know if Path to Exile is where I want to be against Storm. Giving them a land is oftentimes pretty bad. Yeah, I think I'm just going to run this here. I'm just going to be leaning heavy on Scoos. I don't think Storm plays Aria of Flame, but Pyromancer Ascension is absolutely a real card. I'll keep this. Being able to bounce their critter on turn 2 seems pretty relevant here. It's nice not needing Path as much because I do have to shock here, though. That stinks. A big reason why I won last game was I didn't have to shock, so my opponent couldn't just grave shot me to death. I don't think Storm wants to do that either. I think Pyromancer Ascension is just generally better for Storm. So now I get to bounce this, which is a huge tempo play, as we saw in the Modern Streamers League, Cyrus Cormingill against Caleb Schur. When Cyrus was able to bounce Caleb's effectively Mana Lords, it really bought a lot of tempo for the Snow Shift player. Really a lot of tempo for Valakut. Now, Caleb was also stuck on 2 lands and had a pretty miserable hand, but let's see here. So I can play a 1/1 Ballista. Just doesn't do very much. And I'll pass. I could just be dead right here. Yeah. It would completely change how you play some matchups for sure. I am intrigued with like a Phoenix deck that's more all in the Aria plan, because I think Aria is one of the best new cards Phoenix has. I think people have largely forgotten for some reason how good Izzet Phoenix is, because it was a terror on Modern for so long, and it's honestly one of the reasons why I moved to Amulet Titan. Okay, all right. Sure. So Engineered Explosives is an out here. Ballista could be an out. I mean, I could just draw Vizier and win the game. Or not. So Karn can get me engineered explosives. I think I just need to go the Skoos route. So that's 6 power. It's kind of rough. Drop me down to 9. I think what I want to do here is play Druid. I just don't know if I should put my shields down with the Skoos. That's the part I keep struggling with. Because I could drop like a Ballista. I could drop an Ewit right now. An Ewit's a fine blocker. So if my opponent's game plan is just to win with these goblins, then I think that's the fine line. But really, I think what I just want to do is pass here and hold up 3 mana. Maybe even crack that canopy in the end step to try to find a Vizier and just win the game. I don't like that. Okay. I mean, double bolt seals it here. Or not quite, because I will eat that. Like, if the last 2 cards are exactly bolt, and I try to eat that Baral right now, I'm dead. I guess I just do it in response again. I don't like this spot. I don't like this matchup, really. Okay. I'm going to use Oath of Nissa, dig 3, not hit a Vizier, cry. There we go. Okay, we beat Storm. Man, Oath of Nissa digging 3 deep there was absolutely phenomenal. Even if my opponent has like a Disdainful Stroke, which I don't think Storm even runs, I think I'm still fine here because I can just Ewit that back. They would need exactly like a counter spell and Surgical Extraction. Okay. All right, let's finish strong. 2-0 in Storm. So the only loss so far was in a match where I mulled to 5 both games and failed to top deck well, even when I had the opportunity to still win that. You can pick Oath of Nissa up out of the yard with a Witness if you have 2 Oath of Nissas. Oath of Nissa also, Niddy, you have to remember, Oath of Nissa also works really well with Teferi. It turns Teferi on an empty board. Teferi usually is like a nice, like is an unsummon or a bounce spell. He's basically a boomerang that draws you a card and has a lingering effect, which is very strong. If you go Teferi, bounce your Oath of Nissa on an empty board, then replay Oath of Nissa, Teferi just became a divination that it draws you so deep, draws you so many cards. I don't know if I want incubation in this list. I'm pretty light on blue as it is. And Oath of Nissa also helping me cast Teferi with just green mana or just green-white mana is also incredibly, incredibly relevant. Oath digging for Karn, Oath digging for Teferi, for Druid, or even just an extra land that I sometimes need, I think is I don't think I've ever sided them out. Or maybe I have sided them out in matchups where I side in all my removal spells. This hand's fine. Let's keep. So I'm going to go turn 1 Elf. Basic Island. Don't know what that is. But just to be safe, let's fetch a basic. Sure. I think it's control. They put a card on the bottom. So next turn I get to go Utopia Sprawl. I mean, next turn I can just cast Teferi, right? I can cast Karn. If my opponent taps out, I'm definitely going to go for a Karn or Teferi and force him to have Force of Negation. This looks like blue-white control to me. Which means I don't think... Okay, so they didn't tap out. What do I do here? I assume they have a Logic Knot or a Mana Leak or something, so I think what I'm going to do is cast the Sprawl. I'm not playing a land yet, so I'm making it look to my opponent like I'm really landlocked. And I need this Arbor Elf Sprawl combo to kind of go off. If I played my land first, my opponent's reaction would be very, very different. Like, in one situation in this, I had an opponent like path my Arbor Elf. They topped a card before this resolved, and then I just dropped the Teferi. Okay, so that did not happen here. One mana up, so I think I'm just going to jam Teferi here. I chose white, so I need the blue. Force of Negation or Spell Pierce? Neither? Great. Yeah, so no matter what, I was fine there. I do think it's nice to not play that land first, though, because it makes my opponent feel like it's less... Okay. I go Druid here. And then next turn I get to try to combo. I think Teferi is so valuable here. I'll just grab an extra. And I will plus him. I cast Teferi there. Yep. So they reveal path. They have to path now. Yep. 1, 2, 3, 4 mana available, so I can't Lattice Lock yet. But I can grab Pithing Needle and stop Big Teferi. Big Teferi's Hero of Dominaria, right? Let me pull that up. Yeah. And then I will play Hall of the Bandit Lord. Okay. So I'm threatening from many different angles here. My Teferi is stopping my opponent from really doing too much on my turn. This Hall of the Bandit Lord Druid combo is threatening to kill my opponent on my turn, and this Karn is threatening to Lattice Lock my opponent on my turn. So my opponent now has to deal with... Okay, they dealt with one of them. A big reason why I like putting a Utopia Sprawl on Forest is to stop opponents from basically effectively ghost quartering it. Or they can't Field of Ruin a basic. So 1, 2, yeah, my opponent's just dead unless they have Force of Negation, which they can't use because of Teferi. 2, 4, 5, 6, and that's game. Okay. Liquid Metal Coating would have been great, but I didn't need it. I mean, I think in that case, Pithing Needle was the answer, because Pithing Needle, the only answer they have to a resolved Karn is Cryptic Command Bounce, which completely taps out their entire turn, and Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, Tuck. By grabbing a Pithing Needle on Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, I forced my opponent to have to Cryptic bounce my Karn, which wasn't even a great solution at that point because I believe I had 10 mana in play the following turn, so I was lattice locking them regardless. So they really had to... I don't know, they didn't have too many outs there. They were pretty screwed. I Scooze, Tracker, maybe Knight of Autumn. Yeah, it's not too many, but it's still an out that I wanted to avoid. Especially with Narset to help dig for it. I think it was the right call there. I definitely want Tracker. I don't really want removal. I mean, Scooze might be a little bit too cute, too. Alright. These are all in, right? And I want that. Could cut a land here. These matches tend to go a little long. Yeah, I think I'm going to cut a land. Feels weird to cut a land and bring in Tracker, but I am on the draw, so I don't actually need 22 lands, and I'm on the draw anyway. I am planning on lattice locking my opponent, but I do want to set up for that anyway. I doubt I'm going to be able to kill my opponent with the Druid. Teferi is the most important card in this matchup. My opponent not having counter magic for Teferi, like, I still think the way I managed that was correct. This hand's fine. I got a turn 1 Oath to dig for Teferi, I got a turn 2 Druid, and I have Karn. I do need land, so I'll grab the land. Yeah, Finale seems important. Finale also grabs things like Tracker, which I think are important. Yep. Gonna path them. Yeah. I could have sacrificed a Devoted Druid to keep it in the graveyard. Ooh, that's spicy. A few lines here. I can drop Karn, but it's going to die. If I plus it, it's probably still going to die. I think I just want to go double Druid here. Yeah, I saw one of the trophy leaders on Blue-White Control, and he was running the Mentor. In the league, RJ Benson's running it too. It stinks I've drawn like all my forests this game. So my opponent will have 5 cards in hand, and they have to answer. They either need a counter magic spell, or they need to kill 2 druids, or I win. Yeah, this is just happening. This is fine. I'd rather Karn resolve than the Finale. So it's possible I should have cast the Karn first and then seen what my opponent did. Yeah, I think maybe I should have cast the Karn. If they countered that, then they're just letting me get it, huh? Interesting. Yeah, it's too late, opponent. I have infinite mana. So I'm going to cast Karn, and then I'm going to cast the Eternal Witness second. I guess it doesn't really matter which order I do it. So they need Force of Negation. If they had it, they would have played it. Yeah, I also wanted to ramp to have 4 mana next turn. So I wanted that path to resolve anyway. I was just saying I could have done that. In some versions, I'll do that with like Renegade Rallier, or if I have a Scooz, I want to be able to grow later. Okay. So they counter this. Oh, they just concede. Okay. So if they countered that, then I was going to go Ewit into Finale and try to win that way. 4-1. Yay. So we had a rough start with double Mold of 5 against Bridgemine. So that was Blue-White Control. 2-0. So that was a pretty good league. All the games, I believe, went down to 2 matches. Did not. Double Force would have done that there. Yep. But if they had Force, they should have countered the first one, right? Not let me get infinite mana. So that was a lot of fun. I loved playing Druid Karn with you guys. This will be up on YouTube for anybody who missed the entire league. This will be up on my YouTube channel shortly. So please check that out. Thank you very much for the follows. I greatly appreciate it. I'm right now down on emotes for my subs, as Blademan can attest. He messaged me, he's like, where'd your emote go? I am adding a new emote very shortly. It'll be beautiful, fantastic art. That should be up very shortly. So I took down the old one in preparation for getting a new one up. That'll be up really soon. Yeah, I really like how Teferi adds a new element to this deck in fighting control. I always felt like a dog fighting control as Abzan Company thinks, because the Infinite Life didn't win the game. It didn't really do too much, and Finks is not a great beatdown plan. But here, having access to Teferi to protect my combo makes the combo a real threat, especially with Hall of the Bandit Lord or a Finale to flash in. In Karn, as we saw, my opponent was in that awkward spot where they had to destroy the Hall of the Bandit Lord or risk just dying to Druid. They had to kill Karn or risk dying to Lattice, and they had to do all of that on their turn because of Teferi. Now, I think that's really, really an interesting spot you can put your opponent in. You can kind of like lock them out here, which is something that Druid decks don't have access to do. I do think this deck is a fundamentally different style of Druid deck because of this later gameplay it enables. Just having the ability to set up a future combo turn instead of being forced to combo on turn 3 or die, I think is very, very powerful. What we lose in this version, right, it does feel much more like a game of chess. What we lose here is Collected Company, which is a card that is, yes, it's high variance, but you can build your deck so it's not. And Collected Company is a card that is the most important card in a lot of matchups in company decks. But you have to build your entire deck around it, and it hurts post-board when you're bringing in non-creature spells like Path to Exile and sometimes even a Gideon. I don't have to worry about having that now, and I also don't have to worry about having a certain number of mana dorks to hit Cord, as I was talking to, I believe, at the beginning of this video, because in an Abzan Company list, you have to go a turn 1 dork, turn 2 druid, to grab a turn 3 Cord for 2, and you need to have both of those creatures live. So not needing that dork makes things a lot easier. Now I'm assuming in that case that you're only hitting 2 land drops because it's a 21 land deck, but not needing the extra bodies in play for Convoke, and having Finale be a tutor card that also is a win condition. So there are some times where, like, late in the game, like, Finale doubles as Duskwatch Recruiter and Ballista. And it's also an extra Vizier. It's also an extra, I've used it for Eternal Witness loops, for grabbing Scavenging Ooze, I've grabbed Tracker, Knight of Autumn. I've grabbed every creature in my deck. I've even grabbed an Arbor Elf off of Finale of Devastation. And I wouldn't have used Cord in that same regard, because Cord feels more like a combo piece, where Finale just feels like a, hey, whatever you need, man, whatever you need. Winds of Abandon would have won me game 2 against Dredgevine. Next time it'll save us. We would have had to draw it. We have no way of filtering our draws towards the sorcery, because Oath of Nissa is really our filter. Yeah, we do draw extra cards with the Teferi. I will say this deck does see a lot of cards. I know we were down on resources in both those mold to 5s in match 1, but I still felt like I was in those games. I still was like, oh, if I draw one of these 12 cards, I win the game on the spot. I just didn't draw those cards. Winds of Abandon certainly is one of those cards that can just win you the game on the spot once you get to that 6 mana. Again, another reason why I like having 22 lands in this deck list. I don't really count Hall of the Bandit Lord as a land, it's more like a spell. That is my Postmortem Lunge for all effect and purpose. I just use that to set up one turn wins with Teferi, and I can use Oath of Nissa to help dig for that Hall. So yeah, that's the list. Let me know what you guys want to see. I did have some requests for some Karn Titan Shift, so I'll try to get that in the books soon. I think I have only one deck left on my donation deck list I need to get to, and that is a black-red Unearthed deck, which I'm pretty excited about, so I'll be playing that soon. So let me know. As always, I will try to be back soon. This is it's a Ball Lightning Unearthed, yep, with Dreadhorde Arcanist. I'm very excited about that list. But it is my lunchtime now. Thank you all very much for hanging out with me. Be sure to check, you can see this video if you missed the beginning on YouTube, and also you can watch the Modern Streamers League video of last night. It's now up on YouTube, so you can be sure to check that out. It's a long one. Spoilers, every single match went to Game 3, which is pretty incredible. See ya, Ian. Have a good one, guys.